In a nation sitting on the largest proven oil reserves on the planet, an astounding 96% of the population lives in poverty. It's a country where the monthly minimum wage can't even buy a gallon of milk, where hyperinflation has made the currency worthless, and where millions have been forced to flee their homes. This is the reality of modern-day Venezuela. On January the 3rd, 2026, this long simmering crisis took a dramatic turn. As the gears of American justice begin to turn, the shocking story of his lifestyle, a tale of extravagant feasts, private jets, and luxury watches, is being brought into the light. While his people suffered through one of the worst economic collapses in modern history, forcing 7.7 million to flee the country, how did Nicolás Maduro, a former bus driver with a modest public servant's salary, allegedly fund a life of unimaginable luxury? With his official net worth pegged at just $2 million, how did he preside over a system that U.S. prosecutors claim funneled hundreds of billions of dollars out of the country? Now that he has been captured, we can investigate the damning discrepancy between his reported salary and his documented opulence and uncover the illicit blueprint that allegedly fueled his high-flying lifestyle. To understand the sheer scale of the disconnect, you have to start with the official story. On paper, Nicolás Maduro was not a rich man. Financial trackers, relying on public records, estimate his personal net worth to be around $2 to $3 million. His wife, Celia Flores, a powerful political figure who called herself the first combatant, is estimated to be worth a similar amount. For years, Maduro's official presidential salary was a joke. Venezuelan law stated that the head of state couldn't earn more than 12 times the minimum wage. In a country drowning in hyperinflation, this sometimes amounted to the equivalent of just $120 a month. Even with more generous estimates putting his monthly pay around $4,000, the numbers just don't add up. It's a salary that doesn't begin to explain the world of extreme luxury he inhabited. This was the public deception, the carefully built image of a socialist leader who shared the struggles of his people. He rose from humble beginnings as a bus driver, becoming a union leader and a devoted follower of his predecessor, Hugo Chavez. This origin story was central to his political identity, the common man who understood the working class. The modest salary and official net worth were all part of the performance. But that image collapses the moment you look beyond the official paperwork. According to critics and international investigators, those modest figures tell only a fraction of the story. They argue the real wealth was never meant to be visible. It wasn't parked in a bank account under his own name. It wasn't listed on any public declaration. Instead, they say it was hidden, scattered across a web of offshore accounts, shell companies, luxury assets, and trusted proxies. A shadow empire, built quietly, protected carefully, and funded, they claim, by the systematic looting of the Venezuelan state. In this view, the official numbers weren't transparency, they were camouflage, a carefully maintained illusion of socialist austerity designed for public consumption. Because behind the curtain, investigators say, a very different reality was unfolding. Nothing exposes the lie of Maduro's modest life more than his personal taste for the finer things. His collection of luxuries wasn't just an indulgence. It was a performance of untouchable power in a country where most people had lost everything. Let's start with what was on his wrist. For years, a blog called Relojes del Chavismo, or Chavismo's Watches, documented the timepieces worn by Venezuelan officials. While Maduro sometimes wore a simple citizen watch, he was repeatedly photographed wearing a Hublot Big Bang King Power Maradona, a limited edition model that retailed for around $40,000. Another Hublot, a King Gold model with an 18-karat rose gold case, has been seen on his wrist, valued at nearly $45,000. Perhaps the most audacious of all is the watch some observers claim was his crown jewel, a platinum Rolex Day-Date 40. Often called the President's Watch, this iconic timepiece is crafted from one of the world's most precious metals and carries a price tag of nearly $73,000. To put that in perspective, the value of this single watch is more than a lifetime of earnings for the average Venezuelan. But the extravagance goes far beyond watches. It extends to his very public dining habits. The most infamous example came in 2018, a year when Venezuela's hyperinflation was projected to hit 1,000,000%, while his people were literally starving, with reports showing the average citizen had lost about 24 pounds from food shortages. Maduro made a stop in Istanbul. There, he and his wife were hosted by the celebrity chef Nusret Gökçe, better known as Salt Bey. In videos the chef proudly posted online, Maduro is seen feasting on opulent cuts of steak, which cost several $100s each. He declared, "This is a once-in-a-lifetime moment," before smoking a thick cigar from a personalized box bearing his name on a golden plaque. The backlash was global. The image of Maduro gorging on luxury steak while Venezuelans searched for food in the trash became a defining symbol of his regime's cruelty. Back in Caracas, Maduro was completely defiant. He laughed about the incident on state TV, praised the chef, and even imitated the famous salt-sprinkling gesture, showing a total lack of remorse. Then there's the matter of transportation. Maduro frequently used an Embraer 190 VIP jet from the state airline, an aircraft that costs around $12,500 per hour to charter. But U.S. investigations have allegedly linked him and his inner circle to a fleet of private jets used for both personal travel and illicit activities. While direct ownership is hard to prove, U.S. authorities have pointed to a network of shell companies used to buy and operate these aircraft. According to one report, assets seized from Maduro's network included a Dassault Falcon 900EX jet, allegedly bought for $13 million through a U.S. front company before being transferred for his personal use. These weren't just planes, they were flying palaces, allegedly allowing the regime to move people and illicit goods around the world, far from public view. Maduro's opulent lifestyle was allegedly anchored in a sprawling, shadowy real estate portfolio. While you won't find mansions listed in his name, investigators and prosecutors have spent years following a trail of shell companies and frontmen that they claim points to a hidden empire of luxury properties. In Venezuela, his official residence was the Miraflores Palace in Caracas, which he transformed into a fortified command center. He also had access to La Casona, the traditional presidential estate, and a lavish coastal retreat on La Orchila Island. These state-owned properties functioned as his personal fiefdoms, insulating his family from the decay that consumed the country. But the regime's true real estate holdings allegedly lie far beyond Venezuela's borders. U.S. prosecutors claim Maduro and his associates used proxies to acquire valuable properties around the world. A 2025 report citing Florida's Attorney General claimed that a U.S. asset seizure operation targeting Maduro's network had confiscated a luxurious mansion in the Dominican Republic and multiple high-value homes in Florida. The methods used to acquire these properties are straight from the money launderer's playbook. Illicit funds are moved through a maze of shell companies and tax havens, which then purchase the real estate, erasing any direct link to the true owners. The names on the deeds aren't Maduro's, but rather trusted associates or loyal frontmen. One of the most prominent figures in this alleged web of corruption is Alex Saab, a Colombian businessman who U.S. authorities describe as the architect of a global network designed to help Maduro's government circumvent sanctions and launder hundreds of millions of dollars. This network was instrumental in acquiring tangible assets, including real estate. The U.S. Treasury has sanctioned Saab and explicitly stated that he funneled money to Maduro's three stepsons, Walter, Yosa, and Yoswal in exchange for lucrative government contracts, allegedly allowing the family to profit immensely. The family of his wife, Celia Flores, has also been deeply implicated. Years ago, Flores faced accusations of placing dozens of relatives in government jobs. Later, her nephews were arrested by the DEA in 2015 for attempting to traffic 800 kilograms of cocaine into the U.S. in the infamous Narco Sobrinos scandal. They were convicted and sentenced to 18 years in prison. These family and business connections allegedly provided a layer of insulation, allowing the ruling family to enjoy the fruits of corruption without their names on the dotted line. Every hidden mansion is allegedly a brick in the fortress of corruption Maduro built while his country crumbled. So, the central question remains. How did a man with a tiny official salary allegedly finance a life of Rolexes and private jets? The answer, according to U.S. prosecutors, lies in a deeply corrupt, multi-pronged operation that systematically plundered the Venezuelan state. The first and most important pillar was Petróleos de Venezuela, or PDVSA, the state-owned oil company. With the world's largest oil reserves, PDVSA should have made Venezuela rich. Instead, it was allegedly hollowed out and turned into the regime's personal slush fund. According to U.S. indictments, billions were siphoned from the company through schemes like awarding massively inflated contracts to cronies, who would then kick back the overpayments to corrupt officials. Another scheme involved currency manipulation, where insiders could buy U.S. dollars at a preferential official rate and sell them on the black market for an astronomical profit. The second pillar is far more sinister: drug trafficking. In March 2020, the U.S. Department of Justice charged Nicolás Maduro and other high-ranking officials with narco-terrorism and drug trafficking. They were accused of leading a corrupt network known as the Cartel of the Suns. The name comes from the sun insignias on the uniforms of Venezuelan military generals. According to prosecutors, this wasn't a traditional cartel, but a network of officials who used their power to help traffic cocaine. The indictment alleged that under Maduro, the cartel turned Venezuela into a narco state, protecting cocaine shipments and using drugs as a weapon to flood the United States. Later, filings revised this, describing the cartel less as a formal organization and more as a patronage system of corruption embedded within the Venezuelan state. Perhaps the cruelest pillar of the regime's financial strategy was the corruption surrounding food distribution. The government created a program called CLAP to provide subsidized food boxes to families. Instead, U.S. authorities allege it became a massive engine for graft. The scheme, as outlined by the U.S. Treasury, was brutally simple. Front companies run by cronies like Alex Saab would import low-quality food and sell it to the Venezuelan government at an enormous markup. In one case, the government paid over $29 million for food that actually cost only $7 million. The difference went straight into the pockets of the corrupt network. The U.S. Treasury explicitly sanctioned Maduro's 3 stepsons for their alleged role in the scheme, accusing them of taking kickbacks from Saab for access to these contracts. They were, in the most literal sense, profiting from starvation. The final pillar was a sophisticated global network designed to bust sanctions. As U.S. and international sanctions choked off access to the formal financial system, the regime turned to more illicit forms of finance. One of the most significant was illegal gold mining. The regime allegedly turned over control of mines in southern Venezuela to criminal gangs and loyalist military units. The blood gold extracted from these mines was then smuggled out of the country and sold on the black market for hard currency, providing a direct, untraceable line of cash. Behind every gold-plated watch and every laundered dollar lies the devastating human cost of this rampant corruption. The story of Maduro's billionaire lifestyle is inseparable from the story of Venezuela's collapse. The wealth wasn't created. It was drained from the public trust and the pockets of 30 million people. The statistics are staggering. Between 2013 and 2021, Venezuela's economy shrank by a catastrophic 80%. Hyperinflation reached an estimated 130,000% in 2018, turning life savings into dust. The country's infrastructure crumbled. Hospitals ran out of medicine, water, and electricity. A 2018 study revealed that nearly 2/3 of Venezuelans had lost an average of 24 pounds in body weight, a phenomenon grimly known as the Maduro diet. The social fabric of the nation was torn apart. Today, an estimated 96% of the population lives in poverty, with nearly 80% in extreme poverty. Faced with this desperate reality, Venezuelans have fled their country in one of the largest mass migrations in the world. As of late 2025, more than 7.7 million people have left, nearly a quarter of the population. It is a refugee crisis that rivals those caused by war. This is the direct legacy of the corruption that allegedly fueled Maduro's life. The billions siphoned from the oil industry were funds that should have maintained the country's infrastructure. The millions skimmed from the food program were meals stolen from the mouths of hungry children. The suffering of the Venezuelan people is not a side effect of Maduro's rule. It is the very foundation upon which his regime's power and fortune were built. So, as Nicolás Maduro sits in a Brooklyn detention center, the pieces of his alleged financial empire are being laid bare for the world to see. The man on paper, the public servant with a net worth of just a few $1 million, was a fiction. The real man, according to U.S. prosecutors, was the head of a kleptocracy that had mastered the art of turning state power into unimaginable personal wealth. We've journeyed past the facade of his modest salary and into a world of obscene luxury built on national suffering. We've seen the watches worth a lifetime's wages, the decadent feasts, and the hidden empire of jets and mansions, all allegedly paid for in the currency of corruption. We've dissected the illicit blueprint, the hollowing out of the oil industry, the transformation of the state into a narco-trafficking hub, the cruel weaponization of food, and the plunder of natural resources. This isn't just a story about one man's greed. It is the story of a system designed to extract wealth and maintain power, no matter the human cost. That cost is etched onto the face of modern Venezuela, in the eyes of mothers who can't feed their children, and in the weary footsteps of the 7.7 million people forced to abandon their homes. The story of Nicolás Maduro is a dark lesson in how a nation's greatest treasure can be twisted into its greatest curse. His alleged wealth isn't just a number, it's a monument to a nation's stolen future. If you found this investigation compelling, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the hidden worlds of the rich and powerful. And we want to hear from you. What part of this story shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.